Welcome to the deep dive. You know how it is, just tons of information flying around and you're really looking for those core insights, those moments where things just click, you know?
Yeah, those aha moments.
Exactly. That's what we do here. We take the source material listeners send in and we dive deep, pull out the key stuff, the surprising bits, all in a way that feels like a real conversation.
And today, we're tackling something really forward-thinking based on material one of you shared. Progressive Utilization Theory. We'll call it PROUT.
PROUT. Okay, sounds intriguing.
It is. It's a pretty comprehensive socio-economic theory from Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, who's also known as Sri Ananda Murti. The material focuses on its core principles, especially the economic side laid out in the Ananda Sutram.
Got it. Ananda Sutram. So our sources say there are 16 principles, or sutras. The first 8 are about society, the next 8 about economics.
That's the structure, yeah. But we're going to start, interestingly, with the last sutra on society, number 8, before hitting the economic ones.
Sort of setting the stage.
Exactly, laying that philosophical groundwork. And what jumped out immediately from the source is just how, well, progressive and optimistic this whole framework feels, really future-focused.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. Okay, so Sutra number 8 on society, which is 5-8 in the Ananda Sutram numbering, what is it?
वैचित्र्यं प्राकृतधर्मः समानं न भविष्यति.
Okay, translation.
It translates to, diversity is the law of nature. Identicality shall never be.
Wow. Okay, diversity is the law of nature. That's a strong statement. Let's unpack that a bit.
It really is foundational. Think about it. The source uses the thumbprint example. Billions of people, no two are identical. Nature creates variety.
Right. Unique snowflakes, unique thumbprints.
Exactly. So the implication, according to PROUT, is that any system trying to make everyone absolutely identical, completely the same, it might be fighting against a fundamental law of nature.
That certainly makes you think about some political ideas focused on, absolute equality.
It questions them from a sort of scientific or natural law perspective. But, and this is crucial, just because identicality isn't natural, it doesn't mean PROUT ignores inequality. Far from it.
Ah, okay. Because that's the next logical question, isn't it? How do you deal with unfairness, with huge gaps between people, if everyone's inherently different?
Precisely. PROUT strongly emphasizes sharing, caring, and tackling gross inequality. The source even mentions how humans seem to have a built-in aversion to unfairness. Extreme disparity breeds exploitation, which PROUT sees as a major problem.
So it's about finding that balance, celebrating uniqueness, but fighting exploitation and extreme differences.
You've got it. It acknowledges we're all unique, but insists on reducing those harmful gaps, starting with guaranteeing the basics for everyone. The source even mentions experiments with things like capping the ratio between highest and lowest earnings, maybe 10.1 or something like that.
Interesting. So ensuring a baseline.
A baseline, yes. And Sri P.R. Sarkar himself said PROUT stands for the exploited, and fighting economic exploitation is the top priority because it hits people's livelihoods so hard.
Okay, that makes sense. And that baseline idea leads us right into the economic principles, starting with 5.9.
Exactly. Sutra 5.9.
युगस्य सर्वनिम्नप्रयोजनं सर्वेषां विधेयम्.
Which means?
The minimum requirements of an age should be guaranteed to all. Basically, in any given era, the essentials for a dignified life must be a legally guaranteed right for every single person.
Minimum requirements. What falls under that umbrella according to PROUT?
The source lists 5. Food, clothing, medical treatment, housing, and education. The essentials.
The absolute basics for survival and, participation in society.
Right, but here's a key point. These aren't static. They change as society evolves. What's minimum now wasn't minimum 200 years ago and won't be 200 years from now.
So it's dynamic. The source uses an example, right? Like a bicycle versus...
Yeah, a bicycle might be the minimum conveyance in one age, but maybe later. The source even hypothetically mentions an airplane, showing how the standard progresses.
That's a really forward-looking way to think about needs. It adapts.
It has to. And critically, the guarantee isn't about just giving people stuff, like a handout. PROUT emphasizes ensuring purchasing capacity.
So giving people the means to choose for themselves.
Exactly. Freedom and dignity. You choose your food, your clothes, your housing style. Direct provision without choice is compared to, being in prison or even a form of slavery. It's about empowerment.
That makes a huge difference. It's about agency. The source also had that powerful idea about the universe's wealth being a common heritage.
Yes. Sri P.R. Sarkar's interpretation. The wealth of the universe belongs to everyone. That's the ethical foundation for guaranteeing minimum needs. It's presented as a fundamental right, vidhayam, meaning it should be legally established.
So not just a nice idea, but a societal obligation. And does it vary at all? The source hinted may be based on contribution.
There's a nuance there. The basic guarantee is universal. But Sarkar acknowledged that those making greater contributions might have slightly higher claims after the minimum for all is met. The core idea is sahaj prapyata, easy availability of essentials for everyone's development.
And after those minimums are met, what happens with the leftover wealth, the surplus?
That leads perfectly into the next sutra, 510.
Atiriktaṃ pradātavyam gunānupātena.
Okay.
The surplus wealth should be distributed among meritorious people according to the degree of their merit. So once everyone's basic needs are secured, the extra resources go to those who demonstrate merit.
Merit. That word can mean different things. How does PROUT define it? Is it just about job skills?
It's broader than that. The source explains it includes skill, contribution, but also what PROUT calls utility value and existential value.
Utility values seem straightforward, like the example of a doctor needing a car when others have bikes.
Right, that's based on their function, their societal utility.
Yep.
But existential value.
That's really interesting.
What falls under that? Think about the value of a mother raising children, or the wisdom and experience of retired people. Their contribution isn't easily measured in dollars, but it has immense value to society. PROUT explicitly values this, unlike systems focused only on economic output. It stresses honoring elders, for instance.
That feels much more holistic, more human, recognizing different kinds of contribution.
Exactly. And while the meritorious might receive more from the surplus, Sarkar stressed that society must constantly work to raise the maximum amenities available to the average person. The goal is to progressively shrink that gap.
Right, those balanced adjustment examples, bicycle and motorbike, then maybe motorbike car, showing how the whole standard of living keeps rising for everyone.
Precisely. It's a continuous upward push. Sarkar said the effort to reduce the gap is never ending. E into diversity means it never reaches zero, which connects directly to the next one, 511.
Let me guess. It's about that upward push.
You got it.
Sarvanimmanamanavardhanam samajajivalakṣanam.
Which means
Increasing the minimum standard of living of the people is the indication of the vitality of society. A healthy, vibrant society is one where the baseline standard of living is constantly improving for everyone.
so progress isn't just for the few. It's measured by how the minimum standard is rising. How does that look in practice?
The source mentions things like reducing working hours, increasing comforts, providing more free time.
Free time not just for rest, but for personal growth.
Exactly. For mental development, cultural pursuits, a more refined life. It's about a dynamic, progressing society, not a stagnant one, the opposite of decay.
It's inherently optimistic, isn't it? Always striving for better.
It is. And Sarkar clarifies this means both the minimum necessities and the maximum amenities available should increase, based on collective potential. Raising purchasing power is key.
And everyone contributes.
Everyone works according to their capacity, physical or mental. And society cares for those who genuinely can't work. Which brings us to a really striking one. 512.
Samajadesena bina dhanasanchayah akartavyah.
The one about wealth accumulation.
That's the one. No individual should be allowed to accumulate any physical wealth without the clear permission or approval of the collective body.
That sounds radical in today's context. Let's break it down. Why?
The rationale goes back to that common heritage idea. Excessive accumulation by one person is seen as taking away from the potential happiness and convenience of others. It's considered antisocial.
And who is the collective body that gives permission?
The source suggests it's the legislature, ideally in a merit-based party-list system representing the people. They'd set reasonable limits.
So the goal isn't zero wealth, but preventing excessive hoarding that harms the collective.
Exactly. It's about preventing stagnation. Wealth needs to circulate for the economy to be healthy. Economists would help determine reasonable limits for individuals to hold for their needs and contingencies.
Like distinguishing between money moving in a current account versus vast sums just sitting there.
Right. PROUT talks about incentives to invest wealth, to keep it flowing, rather than letting it stagnate. That's Dhan Sanchaya, hoarding. The source clarifies it's not about, say, leftist control, but about preventing harmful concentration for a healthy, omnidynamic economy. Akartavya means not to be done if it harms the collective.
Okay. That clarifies the intent behind it. It's about circulation and collective well-being, not just control for its own sake. What's next? Sutra 513.
Yes.
स्थूलसूक्ष्मकारणेषु चरमोपयोगः प्रकर्तव्यः विचारसमर्थितं बण्टनश्च.
Translation: there should be maximum utilization and rational distribution of all mundane, supermundane, and spiritual potentialities of the universe. It broadens the idea of resources.
Mundane, supermundane, spiritual. Can you unpack those terms? Shtula, suchmankar.
Sure. Shtula is gross physical matter, tangible stuff. Sushma is subtle matter, related to senses, maybe like sound waves, things we perceive. Keranas is causal factors, think fundamental energies, ions, fields.
So using everything, physical resources, subtle energies, fundamental forces.
Maximally utilizing them, yes. Exploring land, sea, space. And then the second part, vichara samarthitam vantana, means rational distribution.
Rational distribution. How does that connect back?
It means ensuring minimum needs for all first, then considering the meritorious special needs, etc. It's about smart use and fair sharing of all these potential resources.
Maximize everything, share it fairly. Makes sense. Okay, 514.
व्यष्टि समष्टि शरीर मानसाध्यात्मिक संभावनायां चरमोपयोगश्च.
Another one about maximum utilization, but focused differently.
Exactly. This one's about maximum utilization of the physical, metaphysical, mental, and spiritual potentialities of unit, individual, and collective bodies of human society. It links individual and societal potential.
So developing people to their fullest, both as individuals and as a society.
Precisely. Collective progress depends on individual well-being, basic needs met, but also developing social awareness, service spirit, knowledge. And individual well-being is enhanced by a thriving society. They're interconnected.
And spirituality is key here too.
Very much so. The source stresses individual spiritual morality strengthens the collective.
Yeah.
PROUT critiques social Darwinism, survival of the fittest, as anti-progress.
So instead, it suggests
An education system that identifies and nurtures individual talents, physical, mental, spiritual, guiding people towards fields where they can best contribute to society, utilizing all their potentials in a balanced way.
balanced utilization. Interesting. Like prioritizing rarer talent.
Yeah, if someone has high intellectual or spiritual potential, maybe society encourages that over just physical labor, especially if it benefits the collective more. The source mentions how tragic it is when highly skilled people are just discarded after retirement. This principle aims to avoid that.
Utilizing wisdom and experience throughout life. Okay, what follows? 515.
Yes.
स्थूल सूक्ष्म कारणोपयोगाः सुसंतुलिताः विधेयाः.
Sounds like balance again.
Exactly. There should be a proper adjustment amongst these physical, metaphysical, mundane, supramundane, and spiritual utilizations. It's about balancing the use of natural resources, stula, sukshma, karana, with the use of human resources, physical, mental, spiritual.
And considering the environment.
Critically important. Ecology is central here. The source explicitly warns against imbalances, citing things like global warming as a result of self-interest ignoring spirituality and the environment.
Right, the consequences of prioritizing only one aspect, like materialism.
Yes, it mentions the Industrial Revolution potentially sidelining spiritual and ecological concerns. This sutra also talks about balance in using human potential guiding service based on the most developed capacity, ideally spiritual, then intellectual, then physical, especially for social welfare.
And the Sadvipra idea comes up again, the ideal leader.
Yes, the spiritually elevated, intelligent, brave person seen as best suited to maintain this balance.
Okay, a truly integrated approach. And the final economic principle, 516.
देशकालपात्रैः उपयोगाः परिवर्तन्ते ते उपयोगाः प्रगतिशीलाः भवेयुः.
Let me guess. Adaptation and progress.
Spot on. The method of utilization should vary in accordance with changes in time, space, and person, and the utilization should be of progressive nature. Adaptability is key.
Makes sense. Clinging to old ways doesn't work.
PROUT argues it leads to stagnation. It warns against things like narrow nationalism hindering progress. How we use resources, ideas, technologies, it all needs to evolve with time, place, and people's needs, and always progressively.
Always moving forward. Like the example of technology amplifying human effort.
Exactly. Using science to do more, better. It also means being ready to face challenges that come with progress. And then there's that powerful concluding phrase.
The one summarizing the theory's goal.
Yeah.
प्रगतिशील उपयोग तत्त्वमिदं सर्वजन हितार्थ सर्वजन सुखार्थ प्रचारितम्.
This progressive utilization theory is for the happiness and all-round welfare of all beings, humanity, and nature.
Wow, that really broadens the scope. Well-being for all.
It does. The source gives examples like using the same resource differently depending on the region's needs. The key is that utilization must be progressive, not degenerative for individuals or society. Even with tech like phones, focus on the good, mitigate the bad.
Okay, so those 16 sutras, they lay out a really comprehensive vision, don't they? Economics, society, ethics, environment, all woven together.
They absolutely do. A framework for prosperity that balances outer and inner growth. But, as the source constantly reminds us, the principles are one thing, the implementation is another.
It's a human factor.
Exactly. It depends on the people putting it into practice. That's why moral leadership, the Satvipra ideal, is seen as so crucial to guide economists and lawmakers with wisdom and integrity.
So the goal is a society without discrimination, with equal rights, guided by rationality, leading to harmony.
That's the vision, and Sarkar warned strongly about economic disparity, crushing individual potential and social progress. He stressed creating a society where greed is minimized, where the environment supports peace, and poverty is gone.
It sounds like it requires a fundamental shift in thinking beyond just economics.
Definitely. Sarkar talked about true wealth being contentment, about needing to understand all human needs, physical, mental, spiritual, and acting out of genuine love and sympathy for all beings. That's the real driver.
Love and sympathy as the foundation for economics. That's quite a perspective.
It is. The source connects it to PROUT's origin in 1955, the Satvipra movement, as a response to exploitation. Sarkar ultimately suggested genuine love for humanity is the real solution, more vital than any complex theory.
That's powerful. The source also defines samaj, society.
Yes, as a group moving together, like pilgrims, compensating for each other's flaws through cooperation. A beautiful image, suggesting a true human society covering everyone hasn't fully formed yet.
And the PROUT Now study circle notes reinforce this, critiquing self-centered approaches.
Yeah, emphasizing the failures of purely materialistic or self-centered views and positioning PROUT as a God-centered, holistic alternative needed now for sustainability, equality, and spiritual growth. A call to move beyond dogma and self-interest.
Create a world where humanity and nature thrive together.
That's the call to action. So, just to quickly recap the big ideas. Diversity as natural law, guaranteed minimum needs, merit-based surplus, rising living standards as societal vitality, limits on harmful wealth accumulation, maximum use of all resources, natural and human, balanced adjustment considering ecology, and progressive adaptation.
It's definitely a progressive, future-focused, and optimistic blueprint.
It really aims to be a comprehensive framework tackling our big challenges by integrating economic, social, and spiritual dimensions.
And for our listeners who are clearly interested in knowledge and finding solutions, what's the practical next step suggested by the source?
It makes a direct appeal. Join a PROUT study circle. It's presented as a way to really dig into these ideas, discuss them with others searching for solutions, and explore how PROUT might apply today.
A chance to connect and explore these ideas more deeply. It certainly offers a hopeful vision.
It does. The concluding message from the source is really inspiring. Together, let's stand up for PROUT and forge a brighter future. A future that prioritizes the well-being of all beings and celebrates the interconnectedness of life. The time to act is now, and the choice is ours to make.
And ending with that Sanskrit phrase.
Sarve yatra sukhinah bhavantu सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु न कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात्. Let everybody be happy. Let everybody be free from physical or psychic ailments. Let everyone see the bright side of everything. Let nobody go any trouble under the pressure of circumstances due to defective philosophy.
May all be happy here, a universal wish.
A perfect note to end on. That wraps up this deep dive. Thanks so much for walking us through these fascinating principles.
My pleasure. It's powerful stuff.
Indeed. Thanks everyone for listening.